how to cheat the laws of aging, and to prolong your life. To answer this and other questions, Russian scientists will travel around the world. The goal of this expedition is to visit places where people live the longest. According to the example set by these people, we will try to determine an optimal formula for longevity. The Centenarians' Rules of Life. The Centenarians' Rules of Life, USA. Researchers. I am Vadim Gladishov, a professor at the medical school of Harvard University. I am 48 years old. The biochemist Vadim Gladishov has worked in America for 20 years. Now he manages his own laboratory in the world-leading research center, the Harvard Medical School. The Russian researcher has been engaged in the search for the biological basis of aging and longevity since 2003. And this is exactly what we want to know. What aging is and what is its driving force. It is, in fact, the most important biological question. Most of the research is done in relation to a specific disease. However, if we overcome aging, that is, if we manage to slow it down, we will, as a result, manage to tackle or slow down all the diseases related to aging, including cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, heart, and other conditions. We found a few genes and processes which allowed us to understand the aging and adaptation mechanisms better, how it manages to live for so long. The naked mole rat is the longest living rodent on Earth. Its tissue composition does not change throughout its entire life. The female animals can procreate until death. Its morality does not increase with age. The study of this miracle of evolution is among 25 key questions of fundamental gerontology. All mammals have more or less the same number of genes. Of course, certain genes differ, but most of them are the same. Our end is, of course, a human being. Its goal is to compare 50 species of mammals with a different lifespan at a molecular level. Half of the tissue samples are stored in the cryogenic chamber. Next in line are the cells of whales off the Alaskan coast. We're mostly interested in the short-living species like a shrew mouse. They live only a year or two, as well as the whales who live up to 200 years, and those in between them. I will close this so that we don't damage the samples. What do we want to do? We want to analyze those organisms to find genes and compounds which are associated with a lifespan. Upon finding those, we could cause similar changes in other organisms to extend their lifespan. Life expectancy on the planet increases every decade. A vivid example of this trend is the retirement home in a suburb of Boston. It was founded in 1914. In the 20th century, there wasn't a single centenarian. Today, 3 out of the 133 inhabitants are over 100 years old. The oldest is Mary Raleigh. She is about to celebrate her 105th birthday. The African-American Anita Ellen is 2 years younger than Mary. The youngest is Mary Harrison. She is as old as the house in which she lives.
My name is Mary Harrison, and I'm 100 years old.
Mary Harrison is 100% an urbanite. This beautiful 100-year-old woman never complains about her health or mood. She takes care of herself. And by contrast with most of the inhabitants of this retirement village, she chooses not to use a wheelchair.
I don't want to stay in bed. I get going. I like doing things. I don't like sitting back and just watching. I want to be active.
I'd say that centenarians are a mystery of nature. Of course, genetics is important. Yet it isn't the only factor which affects longevity. Environment, diet, physical exercise, location. It all affects one's life expectancy. I am generally interested in the behavior of a person who is over 100 years old.
My name is Louis Charpentier, Charpentier, and I was born in Canada, and I was 103 years old December the 10th.
Those people are not aliens. They come from Earth, of course. However, they seem to age slower. They don't look 100 years old. They are younger. For example, if I met Luis in the street, I think that he's around 80. The Centenarian does not only look younger, he possesses outstanding skills. For instance, the 103-year-old man can speak 3 languages: English, French, and Italian.
Sul lavoro con tutta la gente italiana, no? Tutta mi viutta. Tu impara una parola qui e una parola là, e quando tu parli troppo presto io non capisco, ma quando tu parli per poco io capisco.
Despite his independent lifestyle, Luis Charpentier does not avoid communication. He regularly has visitors who just pass by his house and are curious, as well as researchers. He participates in the global scientific project, the headquarters of which is located in this building in the south of Boston.
I'm Professor Tom Pearls here at Boston University School of Medicine and Boston Medical Center.
Professor of Medicine Tom Pearls is a real record holder among people who study aging. He personally knows over 1,000 centenarians. Professor Pearls has supervised the study of the New England centenarians since 1995.
This woman here was, she was already in her early hundreds, 103, 104, and you can see how engaged and healthy she is, living independently in her own home. You can see both ladies are very engaging and outgoing, and that's one of the personality traits of our centenarians, is they tend to be very extroverted.
In the beginning of the 21st century, the New England program went nationwide. Today, the Boston database contains over 3,000 Americans with age anomalies.
Your study is the largest in the world.
Centenarians,
Centenarians.
yeah, and super centenarians, because we have about 130 supers, 110 and older in the study. The oldest 119. In the sample, we have people, men and women, who were at one point the oldest person in the world.
So let me ask you, what do you think is more important? Genetics, lifestyle, environment, or just simply a chance?
Which I think most of us should be able to get to even 90, which is amazing. It's about 30% genetics
30%.
and 70% environment and behavior. Beyond 90, a growing genetic component, so that by the time 106, I think it's reversed. I think it's 70% genetic and 30%
Are you
environment. No, certainly not sure. That's the hypothesis.
Okay.
Gerontology is all about theories and assumptions. Science of aging is at the stage of accumulating facts. Scientists cannot yet answer the question on what is more important for longevity, heredity or environment.
I think it's many genes with modest effects, minor effects, that individually just don't have much of an effect. But as a group, you get the right combination, kind of like winning the right combination of numbers in a lottery.
But in terms of statistics, do they have fewer diseases? I mean, what is so special about centenarians?
45% of those individuals have some pretty significant age-related diseases. And then another 45%, if they got the disease, it wasn't back when they were 60 or 70, it was after the age of 80. We call these people delayers. And then we have these escapers who have no age-related diseases at 100.
Luis Charpentier is one of those runaways from diseases. During the last medical examination, doctors didn't find a single ailment. Only slight memory lapses, which is the first sign of the decline of neural connections.
Can we have a small test?
Yeah.
I will draw a cube and I will ask you to repeat the cube.
Okay.
So let's have a cube.
The
Like
cube
this.
test is a litmus test for cognitive processes. It helps neurologists to appraise the state of the temporary memory of the patient. coordination of their purposeful actions, and their ability to reproduce a pattern.
Very nice. And then with it, just you want this little.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. It's great. Yeah. Can you make a drawing of a horse head?
A new request from the Russian scientists fully redeemed the Centenarian. I asked him to draw a horse, and he managed the task perfectly. He also drew a rabbit, a mouse, went to the cellar and brought beautiful presents for us. He has a very good command of his hands, and in general, hasn't lost his creativity over time. It turned out that painting is yet another hobby of the Centenarian.
There you are.
Yeah, that's for him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Every day is packed with activities. He wakes up at 9 a.m., has a light breakfast, then draws, reads, watches TV, and carves wood. Within 1 year, up to 2,000 tourists from different states visit him.
I don't think there's a concentration of centenarians in New England. I think that people pay attention to centenarians in New England because of the New England Centenarian study. I think that there's hotspots in the world in terms of enhanced average life expectancy, where there's areas where there's more people living to very old age. For example, the Seventh-day Adventists, they're all over the United States, but there's a concentration of them in Loma Linda, California. And they have these very healthy behaviors, and they have these average life expectancies.
California, a sunny state on the western coast of the USA. According to statistics, 1 out of 5,000 Americans lives up to 100. California is an exception. Its longevity figures are growing due to a little place called Loma Linda. Today, this town with a population of 20,000 bids to become the American capital of longevity. Elsie McLellan allocates time to rest in her deck chair every day. This spot under the sun of California is her vantage point.
I enjoy just seeing the birds out there getting, to the feeding. I love watching the sun. The planes going over, we go out and sit outside and watch the planes going over. It's a pleasure just to be alive. I am Elsie McLellan. I am 100 years old.
Elsie moved to Loma Linda when she retired in 1979. Today, she lives in 2 locations. She spends winters and springs with her daughter in California and goes to Canada in the summer. In her house in Canada, she lives on her own and takes care of herself.
And I wait for my 9 o'clock. Have my bath and go, and if I need to do something, like if I intend to mop the house, I'll start mopping it and then take a rest. Get up and do so much more. Then I get the vacuum cleaner and clean up sometimes it's a pain, because you want to do something quicker, but your legs tell you, just hold back. And I say memory work and go around. Maybe sometimes I mop the floors, and
Elsie does not make those efforts to prolong her life.
Adventist has always believed that it is a religious virtue to also look after one's body. Adventists are creationists. They believe in a creator God, and therefore they believe that one needs to respect one's body.
A clear realization of this religious commandment is a health and sports center in Loma Linda. This place ranks second in popularity after church here. Along with the young people, there are 1,200 elderly club subscribers. 1/4 of those people are over 80 years old. They enjoy free admission. Starting from 1958, the researchers of the Loma Linda University have been keeping track of the health of the Adventists. This study of a specific homogeneous group is one of the longest in the history of science. The Doctor of Medicine, Gary Fraser, has conducted the study since the 1980s.
In your study, how many actually centenarians are currently?
46 people over the age of 100, and there were about, our oldest person who filled it out was 113.
113?
And her eyesight wasn't so good, but she was thinking clearly, and her 90-year-old daughter helped her.
Why do you think they live long? What is the secret?
We were able to identify 5 factors that seem to be related to an extension in life, and interestingly, each of these 5 factors seem to add approximately 2 years.
2 years each factor. Yeah.
Approximately speaking, yes. And one was being a vegetarian. The second one was eating small quantities of nuts. The third was being careful about the body weight, not too heavy, not too thin. The fourth was taking care with regular, vigorous physical activity. And the fifth was never having been a cigarette smoker. That, particularly the Adventist faith, the people who are more committed to their church are more likely to comply with their good health habits as well. So the two are connected.
According to statistics, the average lifespan in the USA is 78 years.
To make a lemon pie, would you like to come to the kitchen?
Elsie McLellan has surpassed the average figures by 20 years.
You help make it. You
Tonight,
can have the
she will be
piece.
cooking her signature dish, a lemon pie. It's the first time Elsie and her daughters have a Harvard professor visiting them.
Oh, these are the lemons.
Yeah, this is the lemons. We'll take this one,
Oh, this one?
this one,
Can I take it?
yeah,
Okay, that's a beautiful lemon.
and this one.
Okay. Perfect.
There.
Perfect.
Now, what did we do? Turn around and go back?
Yeah, I think we.
I think so.
Desserts are the only gastronomic passion of the Centenarian. Elsie never drank tea or coffee during her life. She tasted milk only at the age of 80. Now she has it only with chocolate.
The main difference is that Adventist tradition has always been to recommend a vegetarian or a plant-based diet. However, it's not been a requirement to belong to the church to be a vegetarian. About half of the Adventists are vegetarian, but about half of them are not. And when we ask the question, why would this be, and think about some of the risk factors for heart attack, such as high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, being overweight, we find that the vegetarians have big advantages on every one of those. We also know that the vegetarians tend to live 2 or 3 years longer. The whole Adventist population.
However, experiments were conducted to determine the role of calories on life expectancy, and quite a lot of those experiments for over 100 years. It was first done on rats and mice. At present, it is determined that the limitation of calories prolongs the life of worms, flies, mice, and rats. However, in case of macaques, the findings are somewhat contradictory. One study confirmed that effect, the other didn't. As far as vegetarianism is concerned, we can't form any definitive conclusions because it is challenging to study this topic with certain controls in place.
What is your secret? For secret for long life? Do you think it's the food?
I never drank or smoked or went to parties. God has been in my life ever since I was a baby.
So you think the faith is an important factor?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's genetics. I don't think there's any reason to think that we are biologically different. We've done a little bit of genomics work on just looking at a few genes, and they were no different in terms of the frequency. So I think we can put that one.
That is really based upon the notion that the vast majority of us should live to close to 90. And in order to do that, not smoking, not drinking, maybe a little bit of alcohol, being vegetarian or at least avoiding red meat as much as possible, regular exercise virtually every day, also doing things that help manage your stress. It isn't so much the amount of stress that is, I think, important. Some people have a lot of stress in their lives.
This glamorous house was built on the very top of this hill. You can see the entire city from here. The owner is about to celebrate his 100th birthday.
My name is Elvis Wareham, and I'm 99 years old. This picture is a picture of us operating in Vietnam. This was the last year before Vietnam fell, and we were operating in a private hospital. Some interesting pictures here. This is a picture of the Vice President.
In peacetime, the future longest living person was fully immersed in work. He did 200 surgeries in a year. Ellsworth is a cardiac surgeon. His profession is associated with continuous stress.
My name is Gordon Lithgow. I'm a professor here at the Buck Institute, and I'm 50 years old.
According to Professor Lithgow, the important factor of longevity is the body's resistance to stress.
How does stress affect aging?
Well, we think it affects aging a great deal. For example, old animals and people are very sensitive to stress. And we also find that when we make an animal longer lived through a drug or a genetic mutation, we think it really primes the system. We have lots of defense systems against stress, and a little bit of stress turns on those defense systems. Yeah. This is something called hormesis. A tiny amount of stress can be good for you. Kind of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
As a result of those experiments, the lifespan of worms and flies in the laboratory were increased.
So we slow aging in the laboratory by feeding the animals different kinds of compounds. We screen chemical compound libraries for drug-like molecules that affect signaling pathways and hormonal pathways in the animal. And so we can make centenarian worms quite easily in the laboratory. And we can do this in laboratory mice as well. So it seems possible that we can intervene and slow aging pathology in humans.
A pill against aging is not science fiction, as the gerontologists say. Modern science knows at least 5 chemical compounds which prolong the life of laboratory animals. The final goal is to find the compounds which will produce the same effect on a human being. The search for the elixir of life is done by hundreds of laboratories around the world. The laboratory of our expert, Vadim Gladishov, is no exception.
We also study centenarians. So why do you think there are human centenarians?
Centenarians are really unusual people.
Yeah.
And we really don't know exactly why certain people have this ability to dodge chronic disease during normal aging, somehow get out there. But I suspect that stress resistance and the ability to combat stress is one of the features.
Yeah.
Dr. Wareham was seriously ill only when he was young. He had tuberculosis. His body recovered from this grave disease without the aid of medicine. Later on, not a single illness prevented this man from reaching fantastic results. Ellsworth assisted with surgeries until he was 95.
I could operate right now. My hands are steady and my eyes are good. And I think my reasoning powers are still there. So I could do it now. But I think I was wise to stop at 95.
Based on his experience, Ellsworth came up with a few rules which helped him to personally address stress. The first rule is to find a job you love. The second rule is to rest more.
I learned in my profession how to go to sleep quite quickly. And I think that, let us say, I could leave you and I could lie down, I could be asleep in 15 minutes right now. One does, of course, have to consider other things like exercise, which is very important. I don't spend time worrying about things that I can't do anything about. Anybody can realize that there are a lot of things you can't do anything about.
One more component of longevity, named by the 99-year-old man Ellsworth Wareham, is a close-knit family. In 2013, he and his wife celebrated 63 years of marriage. They have 5 children, 8 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren.
I'm realistic. 9 times as many women live to be 100 as men. So for when you find a man that's 100, that's pretty unusual. I don't really care to live beyond my strength. I've lived a good, enjoyable life. I've been in the right profession. I've enjoyed what I did. I've enjoyed my family. And so I'm ready to go.
Harvard professor Vadim Gladishov is ready to conclude his encounters with the Centenarians. Certainly heredity is important when it comes to longevity. Parents' genes. Luck is also important, to not have any serious injuries during one's lifetime. But you can change your life. You can live longer. One has to be physically active, socially involved, eat well, and have a career which literally pulls you into longevity. The expert made his conclusions. The Centenarians' Rules of Life project continues its search for the formula of longevity.
He's lived 100 years and up until 5 years ago was still working as a heart surgeon. But don't ask Dr. Ellsworth Wareham for his wisdom.
I don't know about any wisdom. People associate age with wisdom, and I think that that's probably unscientific.
But what is scientific and backed up by multiple studies is that the lifestyle Dr. Wareham has lived is part of a prescription for a long and healthy life.
Well, I can only describe what I do myself. I must say my family doesn't necessarily subscribe to the program that I'm on. I have never cared for animal products, so with me it was a very easy thing to become a vegan. It just so happens that veganism is a healthy lifestyle.
Dr. Wareham and his 86-year-old wife Barbara both still drive, and Dr. Wareham makes it a point to climb up and down his stairs several times a day for exercise. He worked at Loma Linda Medical Center about an hour east of Los Angeles for most of his career, and he's operated on hundreds, if not thousands, of hearts. His heart is just fine, he says, and so is the rest of his 100-year-old body.
Well, I've been very fortunate in is that I haven't had any physical deficits. You know, I don't have any trouble with my joints. My hands are steady. My balance is good, you know. I don't have any trouble with my balance. I don't have to walk with a cane or anything like that. So I'm basically no different than what I was 50 years ago.
Where the Warehams live has a lot to do with how they live and with how long they've lived. Loma Linda is one of 5 cities in the world designated as a blue zone. The others are Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya, Costa Rica, and Ikaria, Greece. These are regions that have people who live measurably longer lives than the general population. Dr. Daniel Fontura is the vice president of Loma Linda University's School of Health.
You've got a significant older population here who oftentimes come here to retire. Also, they've got common values, interests, in the sense that you've got a lot of Seventh-day Adventist Christians who will spend their 70s or 80s doing things together.
The healthy seniors living in this blue zone have more than a shared faith. They appear to adhere to a shared lifestyle that includes regular exercise.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian.
A diet low in meat and higher in plant-based whole foods. And just as important, they're part of a social community. At the Drayson Center on the Loma Linda campus, that community is evident everywhere.
7, 8, got 4.
From the step aerobics class where 67-year-old Romy Nablack keeps her students sweating,
4.
to the outdoor aerobic swim class,
Nice and slow, yeah, knee to chest.
to the exercise equipment. Everywhere seniors are moving. The entire university is in step with the shared lifestyle.
We at Loma Linda University Health, our mission, or our motto I should say, is to make man whole. We believe in the paradigm of a whole person. And so we try to actually integrate that into our care at the medical center and clinical practices that we have. So we kind of view and believe that it's kind of a whole package. We view them as just all working together, mind, body, and soul.
Many here in Loma Linda are vegetarian. In fact, the local market doesn't even sell meat. But what research has found really boosts heart health is a diet high in nuts.
Nuts are showing a lot of benefits in terms of reduced risk of heart disease, in terms of overall mortality, and now a couple of different cancers. There have been findings linking nuts to lower risk of colorectal cancer and also of pancreatic cancer. Shaped similarly, but the Adventist...
Michael Orlich is a co-investigator in the Adventist studies. These are ongoing studies of the lifestyle in the Loma Linda Blue Zone and how it leads to longer lives. That lifestyle includes not smoking, not drinking alcohol or caffeine, regular exercise, being a healthy weight, eating a more plant-based diet, whole foods, and nuts.
Our studies have clearly and consistently shown benefits of a healthy diet pattern in terms of reduced incidence of heart disease and in other words the first heart attack, that kind of thing, and even more importantly reduced mortality from cardiovascular disease. So less people dying of heart attacks or congestive heart failure.
Earlier studies have shown Loma Linda males live 6 to 7 years longer than the average American male, and women live 4 years longer than the average American female. Dr. Ellsworth Wareham has certainly lived beyond the averages.
And you were saying it was a lifestyle. So what other things have you done in your life that you think helped you get to 100 and a healthy 100?
I think one has to have a good mental attitude. I think that's high on the list. I think you've got to look at the positive things. There's the negative things of life and there's the positive things. And you've got to concentrate on the positives.
Sage advice from someone who has lived a century. For Full Frame, this is Sandra Hughes in Loma Linda, California.